Dr. Jinwoo wiped the sweat from his forehead as he knelt beside the ancient stone wall. The heat on Zarian Prime was terrible, but he had been digging here for 3 months. His team of scientists had found many old things, but nothing like this. Hyjin, come here quickly, he called to his partner. She was working near the entrance of the cave, putting small artifacts into boxes. Hyjin ran over with her scanning machine in her hands. The device made soft beeping sounds as she pointed it at the wall. What did you find, Jinwoo? He brushed more dust away from the stone. Strange symbols appeared under his fingers. The marks were carved deep into the rock and they looked very old. But Jinwoo had seen these symbols before. Look at these pictures, he said, his voice shaking with excitement. These are the same symbols from the Altarian holy books. And from the Vorthok scrolls, too. Hyjin stared at the wall. The symbols showed tall figures teaching smaller beings how to make fire. Other pictures showed the same tall figures pointing at stars in the sky. Some symbols showed them healing sick creatures. This is impossible, Hyjin whispered. The Altarians and the Vorthoks live on different sides of the galaxy. They never met each other. How can they have the same symbols? Stood up and looked at the wall. Every species in the galaxy had stories about the first ones. They were the gods who came from the stars long ago. They taught primitive beings how to live better lives. Then they disappeared. Maybe the stories are real, Jinwoo said. Maybe. The first ones really existed. Hyjin pointed her scanner at different parts of the wall. The machine beeped faster and faster. Jinwoo, I am getting strange readings from behind this wall. There is something back there. They called their robot workers to help. The small machines carefully removed stones from the wall. As they worked, a soft blue light started to glow from the hole they were making. Do you see that light? Jin asked. Jin-Woo nodded. His heart was beating fast. In all his years of digging up old things, he had never seen anything like this. The robots finished their work. Behind the wall was a small room. The blue light was coming from 3 crystal objects on a stone table. Each crystal was the size of Jinwoo's head, and they all glowed with the same soft light. Data cores, Hyjin breathed. These are information storage devices, but they are so old. Jinwoo stepped into the hidden room. The air felt different. Here, like it was charged with electricity. He walked slowly toward the table. Crystals pulsed with light, as if they knew someone was coming. If these contain information about the first ones, Jinwoo said, we are about to learn the truth about our galaxy's history. He reached out and touched the first crystal. It felt warm under his fingers, and the light inside grew brighter. The crystals seemed to be waiting for something. We need to get these back to the ship, Hyjin said. The laboratory equipment there can read what is inside them. As they prepared to move the crystals, Jinwoo noticed more symbols carved into the walls of the hidden room. These were different from the ones outside. They seemed to tell a story about a great journey through the stars. Look at this, he said, pointing to one wall. These pictures show beings traveling between different worlds, but not as conquerors. They look like ... teachers. Hyjin studied the symbols with her scanner. The energy readings from these crystals are incredible. They have been storing information for thousands of years, maybe longer. Jinwoo carefully lifted the first crystal from the table. It was heavier than he expected, but it felt solid and real in his hands. The other 2 crystals pulsed brighter when he touched the first one, like they were connected. Whatever is in these crystals, he said, it has been waiting a very long time for someone to find it. They worked together to carry the crystals out of the hidden room. As they walked back through the cave, Jinwoo felt like everything was about to change. For his whole life, he had studied old civilizations, but he had always assumed the stories about gods from the stars were just myths. Now, holding these glowing crystals, he began to think the myths might be true. Jinwoo, Hyjin said as they reached their transport vehicle, what if the first ones were not gods at all? What if they were just another species, like us? Jinwoo loaded the crystals carefully into a special container. Then we are about to meet our ancestors, he said, the ones who taught us how to reach for the stars. As their vehicle drove back toward their ship, Jinwoo looked up at the alien sky. Meant, somewhere out there, among all those stars, the first ones had traveled long ago. They had come to worlds like this one and helped primitive beings become something more. The crystals glowed softly in their container, holding secrets that had waited 50,000 years to be discovered. The 3 crystal data cores sat on Dr. Jinwoo's laboratory table, glowing with soft blue light. He had been trying to connect them to his computer for 2 hours. Finally, the machine made a happy beeping sound. "So-young, come here," Jinwoo called to his research partner. "I think I got them working." So-young ran over from her desk. She was the team's computer expert, and she loved solving difficult puzzles. "What are you seeing?" The holographic display above the table started to show images. At first, they were fuzzy and unclear. Then they became sharp and bright. Jinwoo and So-young stared in wonder. "The timestamp says 50,000 years ago," So-young said, reading the numbers on the screen. "These are not stories or myths. These are real historical records." The images showed a species that looked different from any they had seen before. They walked on 2 legs like Caltharians, but their bodies were different. They had no fur or scales. Their skin was smooth and came in different colors. "They call themselves humans," Jinwoo said, reading the text that appeared with the images. Captain Taemin, the military officer assigned to their team, came over to watch. He was a big, strong Caltharian who usually did not care about old artifacts. But now his eyes were wide with interest. "Look at their ships," Taemin said, pointing at the hologram. "They are huge. They could carry thousands of beings." The records showed humans traveling from star to star in great ships, but they were not attacking other worlds. Instead, they were landing on planets and meeting with the beings who lived there. "Watch this," So-young said, pointing to a new image. "These humans are working with primitive Caltharians." The hologram showed humans teaching early Caltharians how to grow food better. They showed them how to make medicines from plants. They taught them how to read and write. "They are not conquering," Jinwoo said in amazement. "They are helping." More records played. Humans worked with dozens of different species across the galaxy. They shared their knowledge freely. They helped build the first schools and hospitals. They taught others how to travel between stars. "This is incredible," Taemin said. "According to these records, humans created the basic rules that all our civilizations still follow today." The images showed humans as explorers, scientists, and teachers. They seemed to care more about helping others than about getting rich or powerful. They spent hundreds of years visiting different worlds and making friends with everyone they met. "At this family," So-young said, pointing to a hologram of humans and young Caltharians together. "The human parents are teaching the Caltharian children how to read. They look so happy together." Jinwoo felt tears in his eyes. All his life, he had heard stories about the first ones. Every species had legends about gods who came from the sky to help them. Now he knew the truth. First ones were real, and they were called humans. But then the records changed. The happy images stopped appearing. Instead, there were meetings where humans looked worried and sad. "Something called the Great Silence," So-young said, reading the new text. "They keep talking about the Great Silence." The later records were harder to understand. Humans were making difficult decisions. They talked about leaving and about letting their children grow up alone. They seemed to be planning something big. "Children?" Taemin asked. "Who are their children?" Jinwoo studied the records more carefully. "I think they mean us. It's all the species they helped. They think of us as their children." The records showed humans having long discussions about whether to stay or go. Some wanted to keep helping. Others thought it was time to let the younger species learn on their own. "We must let them find their own path," one human said in the recording. "If we stay, they will always depend on us. If we go, they will become strong." The final records were confusing. Humans talked about something they called transcendence. They mentioned moving beyond the physical world. They spoke of watching from a distance. Then the records stopped completely. "That is it," So-young said, checking the crystals. "No more data after this point." Jinwoo stared at the frozen hologram. It showed a human scientist putting equipment into storage as if he was preparing for a long journey. "Them," Taemin asked. "Did they die? Did they leave the galaxy?" "The records do not say," Jinwoo replied. "But look at the final entry. The last message was short and simple. We will always watch over our children. Even when you cannot see us, we will be there. Saw Young turned off the holographic display. The laboratory became quiet, except for the soft humming of the crystal cores. 50,000 years ago, humans were the most advanced species in the galaxy, Jinwoo said. They could have ruled everything. Instead, they chose to help others. And then they disappeared, Taemin added. But why? What? Ginwoo looked at the crystals. They still glowed softly, as if they had more secrets to share. Maybe they did not disappear, he said slowly. Maybe they just changed into something we cannot see yet. The news about the human discovery traveled fast across the galaxy. Within 1 week, Jinwoo received messages from hundreds of scientists. Everyone wanted to know more about the first ones. On Calthera Prime, Elder Donghaean stood before thousands of believers in the Great Temple. His old voice shook with excitement as he spoke. The ancient texts were true, he announced. The first ones really existed. They were called humans, and they loved us like their own children. Meanwhile, on the science world of Nexus Station, Dr. Yunsu was already preparing new expeditions. He had 20 ships ready to search for more human artifacts. Humans lived in our galaxy for thousands of years, she told her team. Then there must be traces of them everywhere. Ginwoo found himself leading the biggest archaeological project in galactic history. Scientists from 12 different species joined his team. They all wanted to find the missing humans. Commander Jae-soon was the first to report success. Small scout ship had been searching the Outer Rim worlds for 2 weeks. Jinwoo, you need to see this, Jae-soon said over the communication system. I found a human settlement on Kepler 442, but something is strange about it. Jinwoo and his team traveled to meet Jae-soon. The human settlement was beautiful. It had elegant buildings made of white stone and metal. Gardens full of alien plants surrounded every structure, but the settlement was completely empty. No bodies, no signs of fighting, no damage, Jae-soon explained as they walked through the empty streets. Looks like everyone just decided to leave one day. Haijin used her scanner on the buildings. These structures are in perfect condition. Power systems still work. Even the food storage areas are clean and organized. It is like they knew they were leaving, Jinwoo said. They took time to prepare everything properly. Over the next month, more teams found similar sites. Commander Minho discovered 3 human research stations in the Beta sector. All were empty but well maintained. Captain Sojin found a human mining colony on an asteroid. The equipment was turned off, but nothing was broken. 17 sites so far, Taemin reported during their weekly meeting, all abandoned cleanly. No emergency evacuation, no disaster. They just left. The strangest discovery came from geneticist Sun Hee. She had been studying DNA samples from different species across the galaxy. Her findings shocked everyone. True. I need to show you something important, Sun Hee said, calling him to her laboratory. She displayed genetic charts on her computer screen. The DNA patterns looked like colorful ribbons with complex designs. Look at the Vorthok DNA, she said, pointing to one chart. See these unusual patterns? They do not occur naturally. Jinwoo studied the display. What do you mean? Someone changed their DNA long ago, Sun Hee explained. Someone with very advanced knowledge of genetics. She showed him more charts. The Centauri Collective had similar modifications. Some Caltharian bloodlines had them too. Even the peaceful Andromedans carried genetic markers that seemed artificial. All of these species were modified by the same source, Sun Hee said. The genetic signature matches what we would expect from human science. You mean humans did not just teach other species, Jinwoo said slowly. They actually changed them. Made them better? Exactly. It removed genetic diseases, improved intelligence, enhanced physical abilities. Some species were completely created by human genetic engineering. This news created excitement and confusion throughout the galaxy. Many beings discovered they were not naturally evolved species. They were the children of human science. While everyone was discussing these revelations, pilot Kyung-ho was exploring the dangerous regions near the galactic center. Most ships avoided this area because of the strong gravity and radiation from the massive black hole. I am getting unusual energy readings, Kung Ho reported from his small exploration vessel. There is something big out here, and it is still active. Ginwu looked at the data Kyun Ho sent. The energy patterns were unlike anything they had seen before. How big? Jinwu asked. Bigger than a space station? Maybe bigger than a city. In Jinwu, the energy signature matches the human technology. We found on Zarian Prime. The Discovery team held an emergency meeting. If there was active human technology in the galactic core, it might finally answer their questions about what happened to humanity. It could be dangerous, Taman warned. The Galactic Center is not a safe place for exploration. But if humans are still there, Haijin argued, we have to try to find them. Dr. Yunsu joined the meeting by video communication. I can provide you with our best exploration ships, she offered. This discovery is too important to ignore. Jinwu looked at his team. They had been searching for months. They had found empty settlements, genetic modifications, and religious texts, but they had not found any living humans. We go to the Galactic Center, he decided. If there are answers to be found, that is where we will find them. Elder Donghan sent a message from the temple on Kalthara Prime. The first ones are calling you home, he said. We will pray for your safe journey. As Jinwu's expedition prepared their ships for the dangerous trip to the galaxy's heart, he wondered what they would find there. Were humans still alive? Had they been watching all along? Would they find only more empty buildings and ancient machines? The answers waited somewhere in the bright, dangerous center of their galaxy. The massive structure floating in space made Jinwu's ships look like tiny insects. As they flew closer to the galactic center, the human facility grew larger and larger until it filled their entire view. It is bigger than our home city, whispered Navigation Officer Minji, staring through the ship's window. How did humans build something so huge? The structure looked like a giant crystal made of metal. And light spun slowly in space, creating beautiful patterns as starlight reflected off its surfaces. Energy flowed through glowing lines that covered the entire building. We are receiving a signal, Minji reported from her control station. The facility is ... talking to us. What is it saying? Jinwu asked. It is inviting us inside, the docking bay is opening automatically. Ginwu felt his heart beating fast. After months of searching for humans, they were finally going to get answers. But he was also afraid. What if the humans were angry that other species had spread across their galaxy? The docking bay was enormous. It could hold 100 ships the size of theirs. As soon as they landed, the bay filled with breathable air. Lights turned on to guide them toward the center of the facility. The air is safe, reported Sa-young, checking her instruments. Temperature and pressure are perfect for us. Ginwu and his team walked through corridors that seemed to go on forever. The walls were covered with moving pictures showing the history of the galaxy. They saw stars being born, planets forming, and life beginning on countless worlds. At the center of the facility stood a tall column of pure light. As they approached, the light began to take shape. It formed into the figure of a tall, graceful being that looked human but somehow more perfect. Welcome, children of the stars, the figure said. The voice was warm and kind, like a parent greeting their children after a long separation. Jinwu stepped forward. His legs felt weak, but he forced himself to speak. Are you human? I am the curator, the being replied. No. I was left here to wait for you. I have been alone for 50,000 years, but I knew you would come eventually. Haijin moved closer to Jinwu. Where are the humans? What happened to them? The curator's expression became gentle and sad. You have searched the galaxy for those you call the first ones. You found their empty cities and abandoned ships. You wondered if they died or disappeared. Yes, Jinwu said. We found evidence that humans helped create our civilizations, but then they vanished. They did not vanish, the curator said. They evolved. The column of light began showing new images. Ginwu and his team watched as humans gathered in great meetings across the galaxy. They were discussing something called transcendence. Humans reached a point where they could move beyond physical bodies, the curator explained. They learned to exist as pure consciousness, free from the limits of flesh and bone. They became spirits, Soyoung asked. More than spirits. They became part of the universe itself. But they faced a difficult choice. The images showed humans saying goodbye to their cities and ships. Some were crying. All of them looked sad, but determined. They could have taken you with them, the curator continued, but they realized that would stop your growth. If they stayed to help forever, you would never learn to be independent. Jinwoo felt tears running down his face. So they left us alone? No, the curator said firmly. They never left you alone. New images appeared showing the galaxy over the past 50,000 years. Jinwoo saw familiar events from history, the first interstellar wars, the Great Plagues, the formation of the Galactic Council. Look carefully, the curator said. Do you see the patterns? Jinwoo studied the images. In every major crisis, solutions appeared at just the right moment. Scientific breakthroughs happened when they were needed most. Peaceful leaders emerged. During times of war, the humans, Hyjin whispered, they were guiding us. Every act of courage, every moment of compassion, every breakthrough that made your lives better, the curator said. Transcended humans were there, gently influencing events to help you succeed. Taemin stepped forward. But why did they hide from us? Why not show themselves? The curator smiled. Because the greatest gift parents can give their children is the confidence to succeed on their own. If you knew they were always there to help, you would never have grown strong. Is they watching us now? Jinwoo asked. Always they are proud of what you have become. The Caltharians learned wisdom. The Vortex became great artists. The Centauri developed amazing technology. Every species exceeded their expectations. The curator gestured, and the walls around them became transparent. Jinwoo could see the entire galaxy spreading out before them, billions of stars with countless civilizations. You were never abandoned, the curator said. You were loved so much that they gave you the freedom to find your own paths. Jinwoo looked at his team. They were all crying now, but their tears were happy ones. What happens now? He asked. The curator's form began to fade. Now you continue the work they started. You explore, you learn, you help others grow. And sometimes, if you look carefully, you might catch a glimpse of them still watching over you. As the light column disappeared, Jinwoo felt a warm presence around him, like invisible hands touching his shoulders with love and pride. The journey back to Kalthara Prime took 3 months, but Jinwoo did not mind. He spent most of his time looking out the ship's windows at the stars, thinking about everything the curator had told them. Look at that, Hyjin said, pointing. Through the viewport, as they entered the Kalthara system, Jinwoo pressed his face against the glass and gasped. Hundreds of ships filled the space around their home planet. There were Vorthok vessels with their beautiful curved designs. Centauri. Ships that looked like floating crystals. Even the mysterious Andromedans had sent their silver disc-shaped craft. I have never seen so many different species in one place, Soyoung said, checking the communication channels. And they are all working together. Captain Taemin received messages from the planet's surface. The Galactic Council has called an emergency meeting, he reported. Every species wants to hear what we discovered. As their ship landed at the spaceport, Jinwoo saw something that made his heart feel warm. Kaltharian children were playing. With young Vorthoks in the landing area, Tanari scientists were sharing their equipment with Andromedan researchers. Species that had been enemies for centuries were now acting like old friends. Elder Donghaen met them at the ship's exit. The old religious leader looked younger than Jinwoo remembered, as if the news about humans had given him new energy. The whole galaxy has changed since your discovery, Donghaen said, walking with Jinwoo toward the temple. When people learned that the first ones were real and that they still watch over us, everything became different. Different how? Jinwoo asked. Wars have stopped. The Vortex-Centauri conflict ended yesterday when both sides realized they were fighting the children of the same parents. Trade agreements are being signed between species that never talked before. They entered the Great Temple, which was now filled with beings from dozens of different worlds. Jinwoo had never seen such diversity in one religious building before. Dr. Yunsu was waiting for them with exciting news. The Altarian Council has approved the largest exploration project in galactic history, she announced. We are going to send 1,000 ships toward the galactic rim to look for signs of human guidance. And we are all going together, added a Vorthok captain whose name Jinwoo could not pronounce. Caltharians, Vorthok, Centauri, everyone. We will explore as one people. Jinwoo smiled. The curator had been right. Humans had given their children the greatest gift possible, the ability to become something wonderful on their own. Soyoung had spent the journey home, studying the genetic templates the curator had given them. These medical advances will help cure diseases that have plagued our species for thousands of years, she explained to the assembled scientists. The humans are still teaching us, even now. What about the star charts? Asked a young Andromedan explorer. 15 new worlds suitable for colonization, Soyoung replied.
Oh.
All of them marked with notes about which species would thrive there best. Ginwoo walked to the temple's observation deck that night. The city below was celebrating. Lights and music filled the streets as beings from different worlds shared food and stories. He had never seen his people so happy. Haijin joined him at the railing. Do you think we will ever see them again? The humans, I mean? Before Ginwoo could answer, something strange happened. The stars above them seemed to shimmer and move, creating patterns in the night sky. For just a moment, Jinwoo thought he could see faces in the starlight, kind, proud faces, looking down at their children with love. I think we see them every day, he said quietly. Every time someone chooses to help instead of hurt. Every time we explore instead of conquer. Every time we remember that our strength comes from lifting others up. A shooting star crossed the sky, brighter than any Jinwoo had ever seen. Other people in the city pointed and cheered, but Jinwoo felt like the light was meant just for him, a sign of approval from parents who were proud of how their children had grown. The next morning brought news that made everyone excited. The first joint exploration fleet was ready to launch. Ships from 12 different species would travel together toward the edge of the galaxy. Following the star charts the humans had left behind, we will name the first new world we find humanity, announced the fleet commander. In honor of those who taught us to reach for the stars, Jinwoo was invited to join the expedition as the chief archaeologist. As he packed his equipment, he thought about how much his life had changed. A year ago, he was just a scientist, digging up old artifacts. Now he was part of the greatest adventure in galactic history. Elder Dongheen came to see him off. First ones would be proud, the old priest said. You have brought their children together? As Jinwoo's ship lifted off from Calthera Prime, looked down at the planet where his ancestors had first learned to dream of the stars. Below him, beings from across the galaxy worked together, explored together, and cared for each other. The humans had transcended beyond physical form, but their greatest creation remained, not their technology or their cities, but the love and wisdom they had planted in the hearts of their children. The stars ahead beckoned with new mysteries to solve and new worlds to discover. And somewhere in the cosmic dance of light and energy, proud parents watched their children take their first steps toward becoming something greater than they had ever imagined possible.